So now we are.
Now we're live.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, stop cursing.
Yeah, Robin.
Hey.
Right.
Well, Robin's got the show today. She's going to be the whole thing talking about the NKBA guidelines that she's helped put together. And just a full disclosure here, we treat Robin like she's our little sister. So if Renee and Kevin get out of line,
come tell Dad.
You have to tell Dad. John, you better protect me.
I'll do my best.
Also,
Hi, Leah. How are you?
Kevin, I can just kick John out.
Hey.
Yeah, good. I can't do anything today. I wasn't able to sign in as a person who controls stuff. So
John's having technical difficulties, so
yeah.
he's not an admin here. So if the comments aren't getting posted very well, you get to blame me.
I like John's blue glasses. Those
yeah,
really
you like that?
Yeah, they look great.
Hello to I got a new member.
Screen.
I got a new member, Built Right. Built Right.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Fabulous.
Is that Joe? Is that your name, Built Right? Welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. We got Leah in here.
Hi, Leah. Hi, Margaret.
Yeah.
Leah, drop something in the comments if it's okay if I use your model a little later in the show to show some techniques. Let me know. And then we got Margaret. Cool.
Hi, Margaret.
Cool. So what are we doing today?
We're going to talk about the guidelines, the NKBA guidelines, something I think I put 4 years of my life into. I don't know, maybe a little bit longer. I don't remember when we first started on it. But we've been revising the guidelines and the NKBA guidelines. And I just wanted to kind of go over them with everybody, kind of give, the new book is 292 pages. It's huge. And how do you use it? And there's a new one coming out. So don't buy the 4th edition. Wait, the 5th edition will be out soon.
Is it in a digital form so we can search?
It is in a digital form, yes. But the new edition will be coming out. It will come out before the Kitchen and Bath Show, IBS. It'll come out all before that time. So that's the plan for it.
You say all this like you have something to do with these NKBA things.
Yeah, kind of a little bit.
Maybe an introduction.
Do you know who I am?
Who does the NKBA?
What do you mean? Who does
the NKBA guidelines? So you're in a team, you're in a group of people, right?
There's a team of us. There was 12 of us doing this book, the 4th edition, and then there was a smaller group. I think there's 5 of us working on the 5th edition. The 5th edition just got a little bit different organized. We didn't change any of the guidelines. We just organized it a little bit differently because the 4th edition was a little cumbersome. And now the 5th edition is a little bit more organized, and we changed some repetition that was in the book. So the new book is not quite, it's not the 292 pages that the 4th edition book is, but it's organized a little differently. Yeah, so I've been really involved with the NKBA for, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of time, since 91. So been around for a while. And I helped actually write one of the PRLs, the resource libraries on sustainability. And now I got to be involved in this, which I'm really proud of. This is very cool. So nice. I'm going to just go ahead and get started on this if you want to share the screen. So just to kind of talk about what's new with the guidelines and where we're going. So I love this quote. The biggest reason why we went to a different standard, more of a white paper standard, as opposed to being something that the consumer could buy and think they're a designer, is that design is really hard. There's a lot we have to think about. Somebody once told me that there's over 400 decisions in a kitchen, and I absolutely believe that. Most of the people I talk to say there's more than that. And we wanted to get it away from that little handbook that had 35 guidelines for a kitchen and something like 24 for the, one was for the bathroom and then more for the kitchen, less for the bathroom, whatever. We wanted to get away from it. We're finding it all over Amazon, and all these clients the DIYers think, oh, I can buy that book and I could design a kitchen. So we really wanted to make it a little bit more robust and make it a little bit more information, a little bit harder for the consumer just to be able to use the program. So how we did this book, the book is actually divided into a bunch of different categories. And the first two sections of the book, the new book that's coming out, is divided into egress and passageway, and then it's also divided into accessibility. So all the egress and passageway and accessibility standards are all at the beginning, things that you should just know about. So that's at the beginning, and then we go into the little sections. I think I have a video thing in here, maybe I don't. There's a shows you how the pages of how each page is broken out. So kind of getting into the guidelines a little bit, we really want to start with, I want to start with this caveat that these are guidelines. They're not code. They're not the law. Nobody is going to come and yell at you if you miss a guideline, right? So as a designer, you're the smart person. You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to what your client's needs are and what the space is going to give you an allowance for. Some of the allowances that we started leaving in the new guidelines are bigger than what we did in the past. And I've heard a lot of complaining, like, how are we going to have 54 inches? There's just no room for that. Well, then you're the designer, figure it out. You know, don't do 54 inches, do less. So I want you to recognize, I always want to keep saying, when you look at something in the guidelines, you go, I don't agree with it, then design to your best ability. You're the designer, and that's what we want to try to deal with. So these are, what we're looking at here is just basic standards for accessibility, but not for somebody just in a wheelchair, not for somebody just in a, using any kind of mobility aid, but for anybody who's carrying a bag of groceries, who's moving through a space. Having a little bit more space is lovely if you have that ability. So when we're looking at this space, we want to have a clear opening for a doorway. And that means clear opening for a doorway of 34 inches. So that means it's a 36-inch door, right? And allow that on the pull side of the door that you have space to the opening side of that door when you're pulling it open to be able to step out of the way of the door, right? I mean, this is just common sense, smart design options, right? Just smart design. It's not really rocket science. One of the things that we're trying to deal with is floor transitions. I mean, come on, we've all looked at crappy floor transitions, and we try to minimize them. Through the guidelines, we're trying to keep our transitions no more than a half of an inch, but we're really trying to get it smaller, because how many of us? Yes,
I have so many bad floor transitions in my house. It's just, it's awful. I think it's been remodeled 3 times from 1950, and it's just like, big tripping hazards everywhere.
Exactly. And, as somebody who my ballet teacher told me to take piano, 1/4-inch transition, I'll trip over it. So, try to minimize this. This is just normal, standard, good design concepts.
Did anybody catch that? That was funny.
It is. It's a good one, right? I say that all the time. It's really sad. I was playing piano for my ballet class, and after like 6 weeks, I realized I'm not dancing anymore. It's very sad. But I do dance like nobody's watching, so it's okay. I don't really care.
It was a smooth transition from dancing to not dancing to, or from dancing to not dancing. Is that what you're saying? It was so smooth you didn't even notice it.
It was so smooth. I thought it was really cool. I'm playing piano, and now I'm not dancing. Anyway, it's okay. It still bothers me. I'm so little sensitive to this whole concept. Pay attention to transitions, right? So door and equipment interference. Pay attention to how doors open. People who are practicing designers, especially practicing kitchen and bath designers, this is obvious. This is nothing rocket, it's not crazy knowledge. But for people who don't really practice, sometimes thinking about how the doors are going to open and how people use things is that we have to keep those into consideration as we're designing. So this is the new layout for, and I'm really only getting into kitchen and bath. I mean, kitchen. Now we don't have enough time to do the bathrooms and all the other spaces. But in this book, in the new book, what I want you to recognize is that this is how we're designing. We broke out just the kitchen section. So it's broken out into planning and then all of the appliances. So, and each one has a subcategory underneath it. What is different in this book than the 4th edition is that we have a subsection under, as where it's applicable, is to have a subsection for sustainability options and accessibility options. So they're not intermingled. So you'll be like working at the work center, and then at the bottom it'll say accessibility options, accessibility considerations, I think is what it says. So it's a little bit easier to get to the information instead of seeing everything all mixed together. You can see standard, able body guidelines, and then how you would make a change if you were dealing with somebody who needed an accessibility issue underneath it. And then if there's anything that's sustainability, it would be underneath that. So we're trying to incorporate it in a more organized manner. Over here. So really, as we're designing, we're always thinking, years ago, we went from the basic work triangle to work centers. And that's how the book is actually divided up, is how we're looking at each work center. So, I think there's even more than this, right? There's a few more, like the pet area, and then storage, food storage. So those are more areas that we're including in the guidelines. The new guidelines actually even include things like outdoor kitchens, bathrooms, outdoor bathrooms, closets, exercise spaces, laundry rooms, closets. So it actually includes more than just kitchen and bath, because even though we're called kitchen and bath designers, we don't just do kitchen and bath. We end up doing all the rest of these spaces. And all those auxiliary rooms are really complicated. Doing a room that's an exercise room is not just a room. It's what equipment are they using and how often do they use the equipment? There's a lot going on in these spaces. So we tried to be a little bit more, not just dealing just with the 2 main rooms, kitchen and bath, but all the accessory rooms that we find designers are needing more information. So the primary standard stuff, a lot of this stuff has not changed in the books. We're always trying to achieve, for a primary workspace, a continuous counter space that's 36 inches wide, no shallower than 18 inches deep. If you can get deeper than that, that's great. But the absolute minimum is 36 inch wide, 18 inches deep is considered the optimum workspace for anybody doing a food prep. And this has been around, this dimension has been around since like the 1940s, I think. For secondary workspaces, I personally think this is too minimal. So if I had a secondary workspace in my kitchen, they say it's 24 by, the guidelines say 24 by 18. I still would try to get to that 36 inch wide space for width of working counter space. But if all you have is secondary workspace of 24 inches, it can work. This dimension has changed. It was a little bit narrower. So we're actually really would like to get this even bigger than what we're seeing here of landing. This is a landing area. So if you have a refrigerator with tall cabinets around it, we want to cross from that space no more than 67 inches. The idea is that when you're standing there, that's about the same dimension of turning and taking one step to put food down. So landing areas across from each other, like an oven, where can you, how much space do you need to get to something across from it? So be able to carry. This is a big issue, especially like when we're getting closer to Thanksgiving, having a 26-pound turkey that's hot coming out of an oven, that could be too long of a distance. So you really need to think about who your client is and how do they cook. This dimension has changed. For a long time, our work zone area, the space between 2 working countertops used to be 42 to 48 inches. Now we've really bumped that number up. So it's now 48 to 54. And this is where we're getting a lot of pushback. A lot of people are saying, how are we going to get 54 inches of space between 2 working spaces? But, again, you're the designer. I mean, and I tell my students this all the time. If I'm dealing with 2 football players in a kitchen, I'm going to give them more space. But I have these friends that, I swear to God, soaking wet, he weighs 140 pounds and she's like 90 pounds. They don't even need 48 inches of space to work in a kitchen. So it's, again, paying attention to the size of your clients and design accordingly.
Robin.
Yes.
So when you're looking at these things and you're pointing out dimensions, maximums, minimums, whatever, and you're talking about one step, one reach, one pull, you know, you're doing a lot to say you are the designer, you have this choice. Are there some consistent standards that are put in place for different heights? For instance, I had a client who was very short, and she wanted her countertops lowered. I had another one that was a very tall man and a very, well, not very short, but a moderately short woman. And they needed multiple spaces in their kitchen where they had high spaces and low spaces so that both of them could do the job. Are there standards addressed like that?
They are addressed, but again, that really goes into your needs, right? I just actually finished a kitchen for repeat clients of mine who she's 5'1" and he's 6'4".
There you go, like
and
that.
Exactly. So he does most of the cooking.
And did you buy her what you call kitchen shoes?
Well, here's the biggest problem is that ranges only go to a certain, you know, if you're buying a range, you can typically only get that to be about just using the unit itself and not building it up, is you can't usually get it over 37 inches tall, and countertops are 36. So what we did was we made the island 39-inch tall. The island ended up being taller, but around the perimeter, it stayed at 36 inches, right? Standard height. So again, you know, you have to make options, but we do actually address that more in the guidelines now, whereas we didn't in the past. We didn't address those situations of, and thinking about accessibility issues, right? So, you know, somebody in a wheelchair, you know, recently, it's a few years ago, I did a project where it was three sisters who lived together, and two of the sisters were born with a disease, a condition that was going to be progressively worse. And they were both in wheelchairs, but the able-bodied sister was, you know, didn't have any issues. And we talked about the kitchen. I said, should we make this kitchen accessible for them? And it really became an issue. She said, first of all, they can't cook because they don't have the ability to do it, but they can use the microwave and they can get to, you know, the sink, right? That's about all they were able to use. So that area we lowered down for them specifically. And the rest of the kitchen was made for an able-bodied person because these two sisters were not physically able to cook. So
I had
thinking about that again.
I knew someone that loved this. You ever seen one of those roll out dishwashers with a chopping block top?
Yes.
I just loved that, you know, because they're shorter. They just pull that thing out and do prep on it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there are ADA appliances now. So, for example, there's Bosch makes, and it's actually in the chief catalog, a dishwasher that actually goes lower, or it has a higher toe kick, right? So it's actually designed with a higher toe kick, so that way it still will match up if you're using a taller toe kick in a kitchen.
Yeah, gotcha.
So this one kind of drives me crazy because people in wheelchairs are not all the same, you know. So a turning radius for somebody who, you know, we're all looking at turning radiuses of being 60-inch turning radius. That's like the ADA standard. But people don't all use their wheelchair the same way. I worked for a gentleman, he was younger, he was in his 20s and was involved in a bad accident, became paralyzed, but man, he could spin on in his wheelchair in the tighter radius than I've never seen anybody be able to do that, right? Get that tight. But the way his accident was, he was paralyzed from the lower part of his abs. So his lower part of your abs are what help you to keep you upright, like help you to pull up like this. So he didn't have any horizontal reach, which we're taught that, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, you have a really good horizontal reach. He had a great upper reach. He was able to do this because he had really strong arms and he was able to pull himself up. But if I made anything too deep for him this way, he got too far over, he literally could not pull himself back up because he didn't have his abs to be able to, you know, use that to get him back in an upright position. So again, even though, especially if you're dealing with somebody with accessibility issues, you have to ask, you have to address the elephant in the room. You know, I designed a bathroom for a gentleman who didn't have a leg. And I'm like, how do you get into the bathroom? Where do you leave your leg when you know, his prosthetic, where do you leave that to go take a shower? Because you can't take it in the shower with you. So that was like, we have to talk about it. Where do you know, you have to ask the question. You have to address the elephant in the room. He knew he didn't have a leg. I didn't have, it was no surprise to him. So we had to talk about it. It wasn't a surprise. So this is where we're talking about different heights, right? So what works for somebody? Do they bake all the time? And how do they bake? Do we want to lower the countertops, raise countertops? I work for a basketball player, and this was actually really great. He says, you know, because of my back, because, you know, he was really tall, I really am not allowed, I can't empty the dishwasher because it's so low. And I said, oh, honey, we
that's a
can
good
fix that.
excuse. Yeah.
It was a great excuse. Yeah. So we raised that dishwasher up, and he's like, oh, thanks. Can we fix that problem?
My sister developed like something where she like physically gags when she does the dishes. I'm like, that's a good move.
Yeah. We
If
can
you
fix
start
that.
it young enough, you know, no one's going to question it if it's always been there.
Exactly. You have little kids. I mean, realistically, a raised dishwasher is better for everybody, right? There's really nobody who would be unhappy about that. So now this is where we're looking at, when you're in the guidelines, you'll actually see little sections where they'll talk about accessibility issues. And we actually have very clear drawings in our books now that are really giving you more issues for accessibility issues. So, I mean, I love this one where it says include a pull-out workboard surface to give somebody a little bit more support. So, you know, they have these wonderful, what are they, you know, hardware where they pull out and they lock in place. Right? You know, you can get these really lovely chopping blocks that they have. The hardware is so amazing that you can put, it's something like 95 pounds of pressure on it. So yeah, yes, we need to raise your countertops up. You know, it's really important. Is it now, I want to know, are you saying that you don't want to empty the dishwasher, or if we raise the dishwasher, you're willing to empty the dishwasher, you know, at 6'7"? Yes.
Yeah.
Just even doing dishes in the sink, a 36-inch countertop, the bottom of the sink is what?
It's
30, 28?
28. Yeah.
Yes. Well, remember when those, and this is actually in the book. Remember those when all the sinks went to 12 inches deep, a 12-inch deep sink. Everybody wanted these commercial deep sinks. I determined that those are only good for people who are between 5'10", 5'8", and 5'10", because they had just the right height to be able to get to the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. For me, it would be so far down, I'd be using my upper body to get sinks, you know, the upper part of my back, which is not healthy, it would be too deep for me, right? Yeah. So actually in the guidelines, we actually recommend that for people in a wheelchair, no deeper than 6 inches, because it makes it easy for them to get things out of it. So, you know, this is part of the 400 questions, things that we have to make decisions on. And that's what we're trying to help you with.
I have to ask, is this, you look familiar, APP52, is that Perry? Let me know in the comments. Very curious. Raise it up, he said. Is this section of the NKBA, this is the accessibility section, or this separate?
No, I'm kind of going back and forth.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth with it.
That's so unusual for you, Robin.
What, to go back and forth?
Yeah.
Behave yourself, Kevin.
Well, it depends upon this, you know, what we're talking about. Like, you know, here we're talking about the work centers and giving a little bit more space, right? You know, different heights is what we're dealing with. So how to make things accessible, right? And it really talks about like using this pull-out workboard, some kind of a surface, pulling out a surface for your client. You know, maybe you have a client who just needs to sit, you know, somebody who's getting older and they like to, I love making individual spanakopittas. It takes a long time, you know, when you have to make each one individually, it takes a long time. So do you want to keep standing while you're making all of them, or do you want to sit somewhere? Just ask your clients how they work, how they cook. The big thing we want to do when we're designing, and this has not changed again, is the work route between work centers. You don't want anything really over. I mean, over 12 feet, any one long length is, you need roller skates. Let's be real about that. But we're still, even though we're moving towards the concept of work centers, the three main things we use in a kitchen are your sink, your cooktop, and your refrigerator, right? So we're still always working around that as our main work triangle. If we have an offset, like we're looking at on the right-hand side here, you want to make that offset no more than 24 inches. Otherwise, this is where your hip is going to go as you're moving harder, moving faster in the kitchen as you're cooking and trying to get more things done. This is what you're going to hit your hip on. Pay attention to this. We spend a lot more time in the guidelines now really dealing with multiple cooks in the kitchen and helping to make the work centers better and talking more about how to make your work centers work better when you have more than one cook in the kitchen. And that's more realistic now. Usually it's not one person who cooks. Usually there's 2 or 3 different people in the kitchen at the same time. And
So there's
now
something in this graphic that I don't think I agree with, and that is I don't think there is any kind of max distance from a refrigerator to a range. For me, it's more refrigerator to prep space, and I'm finding more and more as I become a better cook and as I design more and more kitchens, that refrigerator location really only matters for me in terms of my initial getting things out to prep. It's not so crucial that I wouldn't take my prep surfaces as precedence over my distance to refrigerator, meaning I want the best prep zone possible. I want the best area for cleanup possible. I want, a kitchen that's conducive to keeping it organized way before I care about how far the refrigerator is, up to a point where, okay, the refrigerator's in the other room.
Right.
So like that max range.
Well, but look at this. So we have the refrigerator. We take food out of the refrigerator, we wash it in the sink, and we put it over here to prep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I mean, that's
really
great. But for me, like I would much rather have more shoulder room on that right side of that sink. That's how I am.
Oh, sure. You might have moved the sink down a little bit further. I mean, this is just a graphic here, but
sure.
The sink might have moved down, and I would have probably recommended a bigger space here. Thank you, Sharna. I appreciate that.
Well,
they are the new standards.
Yeah.
So, Sharna, some of these standards they have not a lot of them have changed from that little book that we used to use to this. There's just more information in here. So it's a little bit harder to find, like, what are the 31 guidelines? We really don't have numbers for the guidelines now. It's like you have to really look through them all. These are the more common ones is what I'm going over right now. These are just more the common guidelines. So I would agree with you, Renee, this drawing right here with this space being so small, I would love to see 36 inches here. I would have probably moved that sink down a little bit further. Then we have a window issue, but this is a drawing. We drew this, somebody drew this out.
The thing that was always funny to me about the refrigerator was I'm not bothered by taking 2 trips to the refrigerator at all. So like I would just bring out everything that I need out of the refrigerator, place it, and then I'm not in a hurry. It's not like an efficiency thing. The part of a kitchen that I want to be the best experience possible for me is the prep, and then getting the prep, from there to a cleanup. And especially if I'm doing an open floor plan, for me, I never like sitting down at a dining table when I can see a messy kitchen. So
I agree.
I can design it to keep it hidden and clean. That's great. So the refrigerator becomes like almost the last thing that I'm even considering.
I think you and I are really saying the same thing, though. I think you really because we're really saying the same thing, and layout really has to do with the the refrigerator you're going back and forth to. The pantry, I will say to you, and my concept of design with the pantry is you go shop out of the pantry, and then the pantry could be at the end of my kitchen, because like my pantry is in my garage because I have a really small kitchen. But I know what's there. I also don't keep a lot of things in it. So you shop out of the pantry, but the refrigerator, you're constantly going back and forth to it. So the
I,
idea,
and I have a very frustrating refrigerator experience because I don't know why we decided that freezer should ever be on the top and the
yeah, they
refrigerator
don't.
on the bottom. Oh man, I just I look
Or
almost
you'd
every
be
day
like,
for a new fridge.
or, or you'd be like me, Renee. Because I entertain so much, I have just a refrigerator in my kitchen. My freezer is in my garage.
There you go.
I have a 30-inch Sub-Zero, and it's all refrigerator because we entertain so much, and it works really well for me. I mean, I've had people say, well, what are you going to do when you move? It's like, who cares? They have a Sub-Zero. Let them deal with it. They can replace it. I'm staying here for a while. Anyway, but the idea is that we don't want to make the kitchen so big that you're roller skating through, right? You know, that you have to use roller skates to one side to the other. And that's the idea of it. And in this plan, what we're looking at is really sharing workspace so that way, you know, I mean, this is a lovely opportunity. We have 2 sinks in this kitchen, so it works out really well. But I mean, my kitchen is small and it's still designed for more than one cook. My kitchen is really small. And until 2 years ago, I was doing Thanksgiving dinner. It's a 7-course meal, and we do it for 17 to 20 people. And I have 3 cooks in my kitchen, and we can do it. Now we all like each other. That
Good
was the
thing.
secret.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work if you don't like each other in a small kitchen. The counter height, the seating issues for counter height actually changed. And that, I think that's a big thing. Everything got 3 inches bigger. So we used to have a table height, the depth at 18 inches, and then it went to 15 and then 12 for bar height. But now we're at 21, 18, and 15. And we
Man,
found that,
big.
what's that?
That's big. Those are big overhangs. Yeah.
They are big overhangs. But for people like, I'm sorry, the gentleman who's 6'7",
Perry is his name.
Terry. So for
Perry
Terry,
with a P.
Perry, sorry, Perry. His thigh bones are longer, right? He has really long. I mean, if you're 6'7", you have long legs and you have really long thigh bones. And sitting at a bar stool for him, his knees, he wouldn't be able to sit comfortably at 12 inches for a bar. So raising that up, giving a little bit more depth. But again, you guys, these are recommendations. They're guidelines. They're not the law. And if you have shorter clients, don't have enough space, make it where it should be for you.
Yeah,
But we're trying to get them a little bigger.
the thing about all that is that it has to be flexible. We have to look at things over time as well. You know, Benjamin Franklin was about, I don't know, 5'2" or something like that. And we think of him as a giant, but the average 16-year-old now is about 7'3". So, you know, we have to consider that the generations are changing the standards as we go. And it doesn't matter whether it's a doorway, a toilet, a chair, or a countertop, we have to change with it.
Exactly. Well, and you also have to think about how people live in the space. You know, I'm reading what Diane says. Are guidelines included for location, size, etc., for a working pantry? Having the spaces to request for me. You know, again, Diane, there's suggestions for those same things. They could easily work for a working pantry. But when you're doing a working pantry, typically that's one person working in that space. Like it's the baking space.
Do you have a section
then
in the NKBA for that?
on the scullery, probably not really, because I think it's really becomes the secondary workspace, right? So a working pantry would be the overflow kitchen, right? We're seeing that a lot in bigger homes where they have like the show kitchen, and then they have the a staff kitchen, you know, behind it, like a catering kitchen. So it depends upon how that space is being used. So Diane, is it more of a baking secondary kitchen, or is it really the main kitchen? If it's the main kitchen, then you're using the guidelines at the larger standards. If it's a secondary kitchen, like an overflow space, then it might have smaller, then you're going into more the accessory, auxiliary sizes. So a little bit less spaces, right? Counter width, this is something that increased a little bit more when we're dealing with people who are able-bodied. Typically the width is 24 inches wide. And then for people who have mobility issues or using a chair, a mobility chair, like a wheelchair, then you might want it to be 36 inches wide. But again, you guys, this really depends upon how formal do you set the table, and how formal do you set the table, and what size of your bar stools, right? A 24-inch countertop eating bar for 3 people being 6 feet wide might not be the right width if the client buys these big chairs that are have arms on them and have swivel, then that might actually need to be bigger. That is why I always tell people designers should be specifying the bar stools. And that even if you don't sell furniture, that's the one piece of furniture that you should sell as a kitchen designer, because you got to control that. The kitchen sink out of the corner.
I can't tell you how many times. I mean, that's the biggest pet peeve for me. And Kevin and I have talked about this many times in airports and stuff. It's like, how did they get away with putting this seating with this table height, where your elbows are up here, trying to eat a meal? Like, I never understand that. And so I absolutely agree. You should be very strong about your opinions when someone's picking out seating for that area.
Absolutely. This is a really big question. When we were asked to revise this book, a few people on the committee, the 5 of us, were complaining about how could we actually come out with a 5th edition so quickly when people just spent the money on the 4th edition. We're not expecting to get a new one again. We are not expecting to get a new one for a while. We feel like it's been revised well, and I'm really sorry. I really want you to know that this came from up high. It wasn't like the 5 of us decided, ooh, let's do a new book.
Again, Robin, you mentioned that there's the content's the same. It's just organized differently.
It's organized differently. Yeah, they really haven't changed, but it's organized nicer, easier.
So Robin, to that point, even all of these differences in distances that you're talking about, overhangs, et cetera, they're also in the 4th edition, right?
They are in the 4th edition.
Yeah. So what we're really talking about then is a 1-to-1 match as far as the details go. They're just in a different order.
Absolutely. It's cleaned up. We had a lot of repetition, a lot of comments that were constantly being repeated all the way through the book, and that's why we put a lot of that stuff at the beginning in the planet, in the passageway, and the egress and passageway, and then in the accessibility standards are the first 2 chapters of book number of the 5th edition. And then as we got into the rest of the book, it's a little bit more organized, and took the accessibility stuff was all intermingled in with the standard, with able-bodied stuff. And then we separated that out so that way you could find what you needed a little bit easier. So it was really more about that. And Sharna, you can get it through the NKBA. If you know somebody who's an NKBA member, I recommend having them order it for you, because you get 50% off. If you're not an NKBA member, then you have to pay retail for it, and it's kind of spendy. So, I mean, it's still not a cheap book, but it's a great resource. So it's a really good resource,
So when you buy the book, do you get access to the digital version too, or is it 2 separate things?
That I don't know if you do. I don't know. I think you do, but I'm not. Don't quote me on it, you guys. I have no idea.
Okay.
I should have probably found that out.
Does the cost?
Yes, it will be, and yes, it will be spiral bound and thicker paper for the section breaks.
Does the cost of the NKBA book offset the cost of joining the NKBA?
I think it depends upon the size of your company. So I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I do recommend being a member of the. I mean, I'm a member of the NKBA, but I'm not an HBA member. I'm not a home builders member. None of you guys are NKBA members, right? Are any of you?
I'm not.
No. Yeah, I didn't think so. I mean, do you need to be? It's great meetings. There are really good people in it. I recommend being a member of the NKBA. But anyway, here's where we're talking about information for accessibility standards. And these are some of the things that we started adding now. And yes, Paul, it does address lighting, and I'm going to get to that. It's a small section, but it does address lighting. Mostly about location, not, but I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this is what I really want you to pay attention to. Is it really talks about things like possibly making sure you get a sink that's with an offset drain. Maybe consider putting a faucet on the side. Whereas if you ever decide to do that, put a faucet on the side of a sink, which is really smart. Do not surprise your client with that. Just trust me on this one. Make sure the client knows that, and make sure they sign it that they have the faucet is on the side of the sink. Do not ever surprise. That is not a surprise you ever want to give a client to. But it does go into some of those things, a little bit more information to give you a little bit more information on design options that you might want to consider. Oh, sorry about that. Accessibility standards for things with ventilation. Consider, these are more things that we're trying to put into the book. Is, the standard height, right? From the top of a cooking surface to a flammable surface, 30 inches. That's code. That's not an NKBA guideline. That's a code, right? But when we're dealing with accessibility issues, maybe bring that down a little bit lower. Bring your hood down a little bit lower, something that is non-combustible, right? And then maybe consider putting operable controls more accessible depending upon your client's needs. Again, this is all hasn't changed. This is all the big thing. Ventilation, this adding width to your ventilation should be really, if you want good ventilation in a kitchen, you do want to increase the size of your hood by 6 inches from the size of your cooking surface. That's just good ventilation issues, because the size of the actual vent, the actual venting part of it, will get closer to matching the total size of the cooking surface. And the goal is to remove, just in case you've never heard this, the purpose of the vent is to remove hogs out of your kitchen. Just so you know, you guys.
You're gonna have to explain that, Robin. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. The purpose of the ventilation is to remove hogs, heat, odor, grease, and smoke out of your kitchen. So you want to get all those hogs out of your kitchen. So turn your vent on.
Sounds great. That's a good reminder. A good way
It's
to.
a good reminder. Yes. This was a guideline that did change in the 4th edition, where we're trying to give a little bit more protection behind a cooking surface. So if you have a cooking surface on an island, having a 21-inch space is before people can sit, where people sit. So that way it's harder to reach and touch the cooking surface. I mean, basic standards, right? This is just smart design. The new book, and I think even the older book, kind of went into makeup air. Is it makeup air required everywhere? I don't think it is.
No, it depends on the amount of extraction that you have.
Well, the CFM, if it's 400 CFMs or more, but I don't think it's a nationwide code requirement, is it?
I believe it is. I believe it is. If
John, you work in more places around the country. Do you experience it?
I don't deal with it very much, but it would make sense that the bigger the hood, if the hood is over a certain size of CFMs, you're going to need to have makeup air.
Yeah, it's 400 CFMs, and you need the makeup air for that. And I believe that is code. But
I just don't know if it's code all the way across the country.
Well,
that's just what I don't know.
It's part of the IRC, so anybody who's adopted the IRC is.
Right.
So that's another question I had about the guidelines. Are there any guidelines in the NKBA book that are also code?
So it will say that for like the ventilation issue. Yeah, in the ventilation, it will definitely say these are code requirements. It's in the IRC. It's a requirement all over, and of course, it's in California.
Does it give you the IRC code that it relates to it?
I think so, and I think it also has the Canadian code requirements too. So it's very, it has U.S. and Canadian code requirements when something is code required. Okay. Here we go. Here's Paul. Here's your information on lighting. So the big thing that we're talking about is in lighting for kitchen and bath designing. We're actually talking about placement of lighting and where you should be placing it. So if you notice, when we have a wall cabinet, the recessed can should be placed over the edge of the cabinet countertop, somewhere in that location, not over the walk space. So, oh, I love I love Dan's comment. Was that you, Renee? Did you type that in?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay. So we do address lighting when it really talks about location, and then we also talk about outlets, but outlets are a code requirement, right? Outlet locations are code, and lighting is not code. Lighting is, yeah, I think code requirements for lighting is one light in the middle of the room, because that's enough light. That was sarcastic, just in case anybody was wondering. Yeah, so we do talk about placement. So we're really looking at over the edge of a countertop. When you have a wall cabinet, that's where you want to place your recessed can. When you do not have a wall cabinet, then you want to center your can over the center of the working space. Okay. And if you have an island with an eating area, you're addressing it as two separate spaces. So if you have a really wide island, right? So you have a countertop and then the eating area, the countertop gets the recessed can centered on the cabinet. And then the eating bar side would get things like the pendants hanging over it. So we have duplicate lighting in that space.
Robin, I'm gonna give you a time check here, by the way. You got another 15 minutes.
Actually, I am done. So now
all
I
right,
can
cool.
answer questions.
Focus on what you want to focus on. If you got some closing thought stuff.
So again, the new guidelines, I recommend that you check it out. There's a lot more information, especially things like outdoor kitchens. You know, we do some of them in Portland, but for the people who are down, you know, south, are doing a lot more outdoor kitchens. Margaret, I will do something about the bathroom in another show. This is a conversation. When I do this lecture for my students, it's usually 2 hours. So I kind of had to make it shorter for this. Anyway, yeah, if you guys, so again, the new guidelines will have more information in there about auxiliary rooms. So I think it's a really good resource. I highly recommend it if you're doing kitchens or bathrooms or any of those accessory rooms. Auxiliary rooms, I highly recommend that you purchase the book. I don't make money off of it. I need you to know that. I don't get residuals. So it's not like I'm trying to sell that, but it is a good book and it's a good resource.
For people who haven't bought it yet, when did you say the 5th edition might be coming out?
It's supposed to be out by the time of KBIS and the Builder Show.
Okay.
So what is that? It's supposed to be out before that. So I don't know. I have not heard exact publishing dates, but it will be out, you know, after the first of the year.
Okay.
Okay. And it's supposed to have a new cover. I think the argument was to make it look still like a blueprint, but somebody else was arguing not make it look like a blueprint. I think new designers don't know what a blueprint is. That's really sad.
They don't even know what a pencil is.
Right.
A pencil? Oh, no kidding. How about the blue eraser?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I was teaching a drawing class and explaining to students that we would have, remember standing up and having all the blue eraser that would fall off your lap?
I was trying to explain those gummy erasers to my daughter. She didn't understand that at all.
Them.
Of course, she was trying to understand what an eraser was. So, you know, it didn't.
My students all have those erasers and they're brand new and they smell so good. They're all brand new. Mine are like this big, right? Anyway, I hope this was helpful, you guys. Yeah, you know, it does, the 15-inch overhang that does require additional support. Does your fabricator, Gloria, does your fabricator use just angle iron? Like, you know, like my fabricator typically uses like a 2x piece of steel, you know, they use flat steel underneath it. And it's, is it 3/8? Is that the size of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing. Well, the thing you need to tell your clients, Gloria, is there's no table dancing on an overhang anymore. At 15 inches, no table dancing.
Yeah. Some of the quartz tops don't require that overhang support. You know, they're strong enough to withstand the overhang, but I don't know about 15 inches. They're definitely strong enough to hold 12.
And it depends on thickness, right?
Oh yeah, well, I'm assuming 3 centimeter, but yeah.
Right.
I feel like so many of our standards in America was someone having too much fun and ruining it for the rest of us.
Yeah, like
Oh,
those
how about-
electrical outlets on the island. Oh,
I
Uh,
was just going to say this to you. I was just going to say it.
yeah.
Do you know, I did a study on it, and since I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's like from 1998, there were like 15 people who got injured by pulling something down. And that's why we have that code. It started in Colorado, and then of course Oregon and California have to take it on, you know, Oregon, Seattle, California, and it is absolutely the worst code. It's just so stupid. Yes, it does address the new pop-up outlet. Yes,
do those
it
pop-up outlets
is.
last? That's what I want to know. I feel like
They're great.
so, yeah.
Oh no, they're
Well-
great. But you have to make sure, here's something to be aware of, is you can go anywhere and find them for like $60, but they are not UL approved for a kitchen countertop.
Yeah.
The
Right.
kitchen countertop ones are $300,
Yeah,
and
they
your
have-
client
So if
doesn't
you
have
get
an
a-
option.
If you get a prickly checker, they're gonna take it out, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a good idea not to have something that can gather water and holds electricity. It's just, wrong.
You think?
Uh,
It's just a good idea.
But by the same
know, though,
token,
what-
I don't like them because they not only destroy the aesthetic by having something sticking up and it looks like you forgot to pick up part of your dirty dishes sitting there, but also, if like us, we wanted a completely flat island all the way across the work surface, and all of a sudden I got a bump in the middle of it. I don't want that. So
Yeah, but you can actually, there are ones where they can actually put the stone right in the top of it. And I think that's what Timothy is saying that he did, because that's, there is one where you can put the stone right in it, but you have to have a good fabricator who can cut that out and then put it into this unit and make it look really smooth.
They
yeah,
can fabricate a corner. They can fabricate that. That's not too bad.
Yeah. And then what I do like about them is you can get, USB-C and USB in it, and you can get 3 outlets in them, the taller ones, you can get more outlets in that.
in case
So it's
you want
actually really nice.
to,
Right.
I don't know, charge your phone while you're cooking spaghetti or something. That's good to have.
Well,
They've made some
Kevin,
improvement
how many?
in high power induction lately too. So I feel like in another 10 years, our appliances are just going to be induction appliances. You just sit it on top of the counter and it's just powered.
Exactly. Well, did you see at KBIS last year? I've been trying to get, it's called Free Power. I think that's the name of the company. It's called Free
Yeah,
Power.
that's for your phones. Yeah. Mhm.
That is so sweet. Well, we'll also do your iPad, right? If anything that does cordless charging.
Yeah.
If for those of you who have not seen this,
It's
okay, we shall move to
$1,000 to install it. Done.
Um,
Installed.
have you found it to be that much? Yeah,
That's
because it
what
costs
they
like
said
700.
with the fabrication, the installation, and the product all together. They're saying it's about
That
$1,000.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's really cool though. It goes right underneath it. It's easy to pull out and update if you need to. It's sweet. I haven't had the chance to use one yet, but I think that was like my favorite thing I saw at KBIS 2 years ago. It's called Free Power, you guys. If you have to see it, you should check it. So
Yeah, and
Timothy has a continent in the middle. What's that? I love reading the comments.
Renee, were you going to show us something?
I decided not to wing it in, Chief, right now, but I guess I will show you, just in case people don't know. I like to remind people that I've got a resource here. Let me see if I can figure out how to show
Hang on a
this.
second, Renee. Will you pull up? It says in the 5th edition, were you going on the 221 or 2024 IBC? I think it's the 2024. We're trying to keep it as current as possible. And Paul says they don't need outlets in their island. They don't have. Oh,
Yeah, it's
actually,
not a
you know what?
requirement that we have outlets in the island here either. So
Yeah,
you
the
can
code-
choose not to put any.
I
Yeah.
thought
Right,
it
the
was
code in-
if the island is stationary, it has to have power. If it's movable, it doesn't.
No, the code is as long as there are no appliances in it, you do not have to have an outlet in there, but you have to plan for an outlet. So meaning you still have to have dead wire going to that space.
There has to be a J box in one of your cabinets.
Yep, you have to have a J box to it.
Okay.
If you have an appliance in it, then you have to have outlets in there. So yeah, it's ridiculous.
I always thought it was
Yeah.
because of appliances sitting on top of the countertop, like a crock pot or something like that.
Yeah, and so
the
you
difference-
for
I
that.
think the difference there is talking about whether it's accessible to the public or whether it's an appliance outlet inside a cabinet.
So, well, actually, it has to do with outlets just on the island for like a crock pot. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing what people are doing now in Oregon, and don't get, this is really a pain in the neck, but the code says as long as there's no appliances in there, you do not have to have an outlet in there, but you have to plan for it. But that means you still have to plan for a pop-up. So what some people are doing to get around this stupid code is they're saying, no, nothing's on the island, no appliances are in there. We're going to plan for a pop-up outlet in the future, leave the junction box there, and then pop an outlet in, or standard outlet in
leave the
after
outlet
final
on
inspection.
top of the counter and go, I don't know how that got there, but I'll see you
On
later.
the side of the counter or something like that. Yeah. This is where codes are just driving us crazy. So it drives you crazy. Yeah.
I'm going to just show you this on my website, rabbitdesign.net, 2 B's, 2 T's. There is a bunch of free resources here in case people need them. So in the menu, and it's a drop-down menu, there's this one down at the bottom here. I don't know why it's flashing, but code lookup. And so we click that, and there is a integrated chat bot that's built specifically to look up building code from the IRC, CRC, IR, blah, 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 all of it, NEC. And then there is a custom built search engine that I did to kind of bounce these things back and forth. So you can say, what is new code for island outlets in the chat bot? And then you might be able to get something like this where it says, a section number here, and kind of continue your conversation with the chat bot, but also bring this over to the Google search just on the left-hand side. And so we're getting this actual code from various resources like upcodes and stuff like that. So this is really easy to look stuff up. I had someone ask me about this the other day, and yes, this does work on your mobile phone. So I had a cabinet builder was asking about, what are clearance codes around, building a box around a panel, right? A sub panel, etc. And I was like, you can go look this up on your phone. If you scroll down, there's a whole accordion menu here of various resources I've collected over time. And the first part of this segment of the show, when you were going over accessibility and stuff like that, this is one of my favorite books here, is Human Dimension and Interior Space. Exactly. Yeah, you can see Robin nodding her head, and this is just fantastic information. So I just clicked, and this just downloads a PDF for you, and you can go take a look at this. But it's a really extensive study on the ergonomics of a human body, and as you're sitting in interior space. So, but there's other resources in there as well. So go check that out. That's on my site.
Very cool. Thank you.
That's all free stuff.
That's fabulous. Some of that stuff is in the back of the guidelines too. They have a lot of those drawings, like these kind of things, in the back of the book. But they're for kitchen and bath. They're not going to be for, all other parts of the house. So
you might need to know about buttock toe length.
No, I could have used that for my office chair, picking out an office chair. That would have been great.
Oh my goodness.
The horizontal distance from the rearmost surface of the buttocks to the tip of the toe. I landed on that one. That's good.
Funny. Did you plan that? Did you know?
No, I did not.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
That's a good way to end the show.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Well,
that's great.
That's it. We clocked
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Good job, Robin.
Aaron says, well, that's a term I wasn't expecting to hear today.
Yeah, right.
That's what we do, Aaron. We try to please give you new things that you never thought you needed to know. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll see. Sure.
How do you measure your plan for that? All right. We're out of here. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys later. Bye. Take care.